I've never met a bourbon I didn't like. I think they're all beautiful, unique in different ways. And to me, that's fascinating. I don't look at bourbon in terms of good and bad, if that makes sense. That to me, all bourbon's good. Hey, I'm Chef Edward Lee, and this is Better with Bourbon. Pork chop to me is the perfect thing to put on a grill. And what I love about pork so much is that it has a flavor that you can really play around with. Pork is like that perfect meat that really works well with marinade. And here bourbon becomes the perfect vehicle to marinate that pork and add depth of flavor. And so when you add the bourbon, you're adding another layer that's gonna really take that pork chop to the next level. It also helps to tenderize the meat a little bit, and especially when the marinade sort of gets into the fat part of the pork chop, once you grill it up, it all sort of comes together beautifully. So today, grilled pork chops. But before we do that, I've got a little bit of melted butter. And I want to make a bourbon brown butter. I'm just going to take this melted butter, I'm going to leave it back here and just let it slowly continue to roast and it'll turn nutty and brown. So here's my pork chops, been nicely marinating. I'm gonna just throw that on my grill. Remember, it's got the bourbon in there, the soy sauce, the Worcester, a little bit of rosemary. My peaches that I cut in half, and actually what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna pour just a little bit of this butter over the peaches. I would say though, whenever you're cooking with bourbon and fruit, you need fruit that has developed a ripeness to it, because the sweetness of that fruit will just play with that bourbon beautifully. So now watch what I do. I flip that over. Look at those beautiful sear marks. And then I don't want to overcook this pork, so I'm gonna put it to smoke mode, turn my heat down to low. I'm gonna let the pork chops just kind of smoke and slowly come up to temp. At the same time that's happening, the peaches are gonna slowly roast, and they're gonna also sort of get really nice and beautiful. At this point, there's not much to do. I'm gonna get some bourbon so I can finish off my bourbon brown butter. I'm gonna add a little bit of bourbon to this butter that's been browning. It's gonna just bubble up a little bit. Then I'm gonna add a little bit of salt. I'm gonna mix that up a little bit. The pork chops are almost ready. Give that one more flip. I'm gonna add a little bit butter to the top, this bourbon brown butter. Got a little bit more to go. You can also check the bone. I think the bone is a really good indicator. If you still see any little bit of pink on that bone, that means it's not ready yet. You see, there's a little bit of pink on there. So I'm gonna really look for that bone to be nice and dry and browned. When that's done, you know the pork is ready inside. Here's a little trick I'll show you. When your peaches are nice and hot, the skins come right off. Look at that, beautiful. So simple, but the flavors are gonna sort of knock your socks off. They're really delicious. Bourbon is rooted in tradition, and I think like all great things, there's a history, there's a tradition, there's a way to do it right. There always needs to be a traditional lane that follows a more strict heritage, and there needs to be a more innovative lane that sort of takes things to another level.